Oh man, ladies and gentlemen, there's some top interesting stuff to go through. Some more comments from Todd Boehly and whatever exhibition or whatnot that he was producing the comments from. We've got some of those comments available that we want to go through. Some interesting bits and pieces on Frank Lampard as well that's circulating around social media. We've got some transfer news. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss out.
All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, what a remarkable match between Brighton and Man United. Brighton thoroughly deserved it. I want to actually do a review on that match on my second channel, so do look out for that. I do want to get busy on that second channel. It's just so much going on in life as well, which is very difficult, but we'll try our level best to keep the content up over there. Brighton, I'll tell you this much. If Brighton make it into Europe next season, obviously we won't have Europe. Best believe we are following Brighton next season in Europe and doing watch-alongs. They're so good to watch. Anyway, first up, ladies and gentlemen, Todd Boehly. It's very humbling when you do everything right and you still don't win. It's a component of it that makes me continue to strive to do the best that I can do every day. Ultimately, you start, you figure it out. I don't even know what to say about this. The brother actually thinks when you do everything right, you still don't win. This is the issue. This is the issue. They simply have not understood European football. They still simply have not understood football in general. First of all, how deluded can you be when you think you've done everything right? For them, they're misunderstanding tactical side of the game. It's not just about data-driven analysis that should make your decisions. There are other facets, man, that are so important that you need to concentrate. Have a look at the way these guys, they've thrown money and bought some really talented players and just really expect it to just happen. They didn't pay attention towards chemistry. They didn't pay attention towards having an elite manager that can guide these players. Have a look at Brighton, for instance, the way they play. They don't have big wholesale of names out there, superstar names, but look at the way they play. Roberto De Zerbi, it's taking them to a different level tactically. Look at the way they build up. I don't think these guys have realized all of these things. They just thought, Graham Potter looks great in Brighton and he's been doing fantastic from a data analytical point of view. Let's bring him in. Yep, let's throw all of these players in. Yep, let's bring all the best directors of the world, Vivell, Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, because they're all so great in their respective clubs. They forget that it takes time to be great. They forget that it's not just about that individual. It's about the entire setup of that organization. Vivell was doing well because of the Red Bull Leipzig or the Red Bull setup. Lawrence Stewart was doing well because of the Monaco setup. There are other individuals that have to fall into the whole situation. It's not just about the one individual. And by getting rid of everyone that we knew at Chelsea Football Club as well, you've made it very difficult, the environment for existing players and existing staff members for whom it was just a new surrounding. Back then, there's a really good article actually from Matt Law and someone else from The Guardian saying, it's not going to be easy for Chelsea to just change things around because a lot of people are trying to compare, but back in, 2015, 16, during that time, or was it Conte era? I think, 2015, 16, during that time, Conte won the, Premier League. It's not that easy. Back then, the entire setup, nothing got dismantled. Roman kept everything as is, and those set of people, not just the players, the staff, they were very, very experienced to know how to put out the fire and how to get back into the winning ways. Now it's not the same. Everyone's gone. Everyone's different. So these sort of comments from the ownership makes me worried, man. It honestly makes me worried that are they actually learning anything? Because as I said, if the owners don't learn anything, we're in trouble. We're in deep trouble. We're in deep, deep trouble, even for next season and seasons after. And we saw the comments that came out yesterday from this same exhibition where Todd Boehly was. Some of those comments, I don't know, man. I wasn't totally interested. The long-term project, the process, this, that, the other. And it's almost as if to say you have to compromise wins in order to do this. It was very strange. Jason Cundy on Chelsea. We're the worst team in the country right now. We are the worst team in the division. We are atrocious. Whatever way you look at it, every angle you turn, whatever you look, it's been a disaster. This is one of those years. Hopefully I'll look back and go, oh God, do you remember 22-23? We need stability. We need a striker. This is not a squad of players that should be where they are. It's shameful, absolutely shameful. We are the worst. We are the worst team in the Premier League. I don't think we can beat anyone. Well, we haven't even beaten Southampton. And they're last. We've got Nottingham Forest coming up. I don't know whether we're going to win against that. We won't win against Bournemouth. I'm very certain about that because the way Bournemouth's been playing, wow. So it's not acceptable. The level of players we have, it's a shame. It truly is a shame. And this is why I keep saying it's beyond players. We can sit here and pinpoint this player, that player, this player. They're all so rubbish. No, this is why I don't go after players anymore. Do you know what I mean? Gone are those days where you can pinpoint, okay, this guy's performance wasn't that great and that really let us down, or that guy's performance. You have 35 players in the squad. All of them are playing equally bad. Nah, man. It's not right to talk about the players anymore. It's beyond the players. Gary Neville on Chelsea, it all comes from the top. And this is the thing. There's a lot of pundits out there that are talking about the owners as well. It's been so chaotic. It's been a mess from day one. And I said from day one that Todd Boehly's had a nightmare. He has completely misread this league, and he will learn very quickly, I'm sure, just to stay in his lane. What's happened this season is purely down to him. Look, I wouldn't say completely him 100%, but a bulk of it is from the ownership. Players are culpable as well, no doubts about that. Manager, the ones that we had in terms of Graham Potter and now Frank Lampard. All of these people, they do play a part, but the owners definitely huge portion of it. Mauricio Pochettino has held multiple rounds of talks with Chelsea over the vacant managerial position, and those negotiations have been described as positive and full of progress. No deal has been agreed yet between the two parties, but there is confidence on both sides. There are some people saying Pochettino is just waiting around to see whether we get relegated or not. This is the sorry state that we're in. I don't know whether this is true or not, but it's been floating around in social media. The brother is actually just waiting to see, wait a minute, before I actually take up this job, are Chelsea going to be safe or not? I'm not even sure anymore. I know a few people have asked me to do the Premier League predictor and whatnot. Look, I don't want so many different games to go through. I just want to see how it all pans out. But if we don't win against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest as well, and they both get the wins, well, if Bournemouth get the win this week and they go ahead of us, and then if Nottingham Forest also gets the win against us, I don't know, man. I don't know where obviously we're going to be 39th, but I don't know where all the other teams are going to be at, man. I'm actually slightly worried. I thought all this time, no way, we might just sneak away from being relegated. But what's going on? What's going on? Is that the hold-up from Pochettino? I thought people were saying after the Arsenal game, it's going to be all done and dusted, announcement will happen. Some people are saying, what's the point of the announcement? We're all trying to convince ourselves that now he's coming, don't worry about the announcement, it will happen at the end of the season. I don't know if it's all that straightforward. Right now, as I've said, I'm all in on Pochettino. I've convinced myself that, okay, he's coming in, let's go all in. Let's back him. But is this happening or not? I'm not entirely sure about this. Okay, now some very, very interesting footage. First of all, let me share the screen again with some sound. This, I'm not surprised because this happened in Frank Lampard's first stint when he was at Chelsea Football Club. Just to give you guys a bit of a heads up before we look into some of these videos from Andre Wisdom, who was a defender at Derby back in Lampard's time at Derby. Some of you guys might have seen these footages already. If you guys remember, Frank Lampard's time, the first time around, Antonio Rudiger was labelled as a bully. And I was so upset about that when Matt Law was running with those, articles. There are other players that apparently reached out to Roman to get rid of Frank Lampard. The names were apparently Kovacic, Jorginho, Rudiger was one of them, so on and so forth. There was a set of playing group that was not happy. And I'm not surprised some of the things that Andre Wisdom is saying, because even John Obi Mikel, his recent podcast, if you guys have seen the footage, John Obi Mikel said Frank was always a quiet guy. He never spoke too much to the teammates or anything like that. For him to then go into management, in my opinion, he didn't have that huge, vocal point when he was at Chelsea Football Club as a player. Yeah, he did his leading through his gameplay, but he was a quiet guy. He spent time mostly with his family and this, that, the other. He didn't really galvanize the team through speeches and this, that, the other, and motivate. Johnny B. Mikel said this. He was a quiet guy. Frank just had his own little corner and did his own thing. Now let's check out what Andre Wisdom is saying, and it kind of makes sense. And most of us kind of had this feeling the first time around when we saw Frank Lampard, right? But let's hear it. He had something very, very interesting to say about Jody Morris as well. Honestly, I didn't rate Jody Morris either. Jody Morris was going around blocking fans just because we were actually asking some constructive, questions. Like, I remember Jody Morris blocked Eunice. If you guys still remember the OGs out there, he blocked Eunice unnecessarily when Eunice just merely asked a very, very normal question. But yeah, Andre Wisdom slams Frank Lampard's management style. Let's have a look at this. Don't tell me this is not going to start now. Come on.
It didn't feel like it was very, very weird. It didn't feel like I was at football. And I think what kind of threw me was that the fact that it was Frank Lampard. I don't want you to misinterpret. I was in awe. Far from. Yeah, I think I expected something that I wasn't getting.
You're going to have to unpack that one, bro.
Yeah, I'm trying to unpack it in my own head. And my head's big, so it takes a while. Yeah, I just expected more from him. Just as a man. I don't think he was honest. And I mean, we had a good team as well. So it's easy when everything's going well. Like, they got to the final, just lost against Villa. People spot behind people's backs. Yeah, that season just weren't very good. It was very, very weird. It didn't feel like I was at football. And I think what kind of threw me was that the fact that it was Frank Lampard.
Yeah, there you go. If you guys remember, even the Tomori situation, I actually had few people that supposedly in the know people. During that Tomori situation when he wasn't getting selected, if you guys remember Frank Lampard's first stint, Tomori kicked off brilliantly, and all of a sudden he was just hooked away. And I think Rudiger was trying to get into the team and this, and then all of a sudden Tomori was completely forgotten. And in the second season, he was obviously loaned out in January to AC Milan, and now we know rest is history. He's won Serie A over there. Now he's in the Champions League semi-finals. Few people reached out to me, the people that are connected with Chelsea, because I was wanting to know what happened with Tomori. Frank Lampard, he fell out with Tomori apparently. He didn't like the way he trained, and Frank is all about training. He's all about training. And apparently he gave certain information to Tomori to work on in his defensive game, and people are saying that he didn't take it on board. I find it very, very strange, these criticisms that I was hearing against Tomori, which apparently came from Frank Lampard. And then you see the brother balling out in AC Milan. These are the things, man. These are the things. I'm not surprised. We're in a situation where we're 6 out of 6 losses under Frank Lampard. And look at the way Frank talks about the team. Oh, they're not physical enough. They don't have any effort. They don't have the basics of footballing. They João Felix, all of that stuff. Like, even though some of the things that he said about João Felix, I agree with. But do you really need to put it out there in media? How's João Felix meant to feel? Now, everyone is slamming João Felix in social media. Everyone. You got people on large accounts on Twitter stating, look at João Felix in Atletico Madrid ever since he left them. Atletico Madrid's been doing fantastically. And now he's at Chelsea. And I'm like, okay, so as soon as we send back João Felix, we're going to be title contenders. Like, all of a sudden, João Felix is apparently the biggest issue in the Chelsea team. It's strange. João Felix won Player of the Season for Atletico Madrid before this season, and before their run in now, the good run in that Atletico Madrid's had, João Felix barely started this season anyway, and they were still struggling. The bottom line is, what I'm trying to say is that Frank has this way, and as Andre Wisdom said here, people would talk behind the back and, backstabbing, this, that, the other. Frank creates this environment, and I know this happened the first time around. This is why I'm so upset to see Frank come back the second time around as an interim manager. It shouldn't have happened. It really shouldn't have happened. All right, let's listen on this. If Frank, this is Ipsy. If I speak about Frank Lampard, I'll be in big trouble. Let's check this out.
Oh no, very negative. And like I said, I've had one manager scream at me, and it was Lampard, and I didn't react. But that's what I was saying.
So what was it about? What was the incident?
We got smashed by Aston Villa 4-0, I think. 4-0, I think. And I said some comments after the game, and then it just went in. But it was nothing to do really with football. It was more about me as a person, which was very very strange to me. And because he said some things that were just very strange. Very strange. Do you know, for instance, when someone says, "I'm not scared of you," that just
strange. That's weird.
So is that what it was said?
Yeah.
Okay, because you've got that aura. That
But he said I walk slow. He said some things. He said I bully people.
That's strange.
And anybody you could ask, if you was to ask anyone,
the whole bully situation, I remember Rudiger was being blamed as a bully, and Frank saying, "I'm not scared of you." Talk football.
No, and it might sound a bit egotistical. I'm going to say no. They'll say no. Andre is cool. Never once even raised my voice at man. A bully. Don't play with me. Don't. But bully is different. Don't play with me. I'll talk to you by yourself. Oh, brother, can I chat to you? Let's go over there. Yeah, come. And then listen me up. Mash up yours. That's my type of. But in front of people, why am I going to do that, bro? Because you're going to react. Because it's in front of people. Now we've got a problem.
It's all crazy, man. It is all crazy. He's about Jody Morris.
Yeah. Didn't really rate him. Just probably not my type of people. On a night out, I'd probably get into a fight with them.
Okay. Honestly, Jody Morris, he comes across that kind of character as well. When he was on social media, I wasn't one bit impressed by Jody Morris. And this was the setup that we had back then. And I didn't like how sometimes there are certain things back even then when I recollect my memory. Jorginho was getting ripped apart during Frank Lampard's era. And there are certain things that Jody Morris, I felt like he was mocking the whole situation as well. I did not like that one bit. Look at this, Frank Lampard's last 20 matches as a manager. This is our Chelsea manager at the moment. This is what our owners have selected to appease the fans. 1 win in 20. And I recently tweeted out, will any of the journalists in the next press conference will actually ask this? Frank, you talk a lot about, the players didn't give this, that, the other, no effort, no footballing basics, no desire. Is any of the journalists actually going to ask, Frank, what do you have to say about your last 20 matches? That includes Everton as well. You've got 1 win in 20. Tell me, what do you have to say about that? Tell me about yourself as a manager. Surely you can say something. Surely it's not just about the world is against you. The players are against you. They don't want to give anything. Surely you have some criticism for yourself. I've never heard Frank say anything about himself, ever, which is quite strange. Now, let's talk about some transfer news, ladies and gentlemen. Chelsea would consider sending Chukwuemeka out on loan next season. A source has told Football London senior officials at Stamford Bridge rate the midfielder highly. I feel sorry for this guy. I don't know what he's done wrong. From the little bits and pieces that we saw earlier this season under Graham Potter, I thought this guy was the real deal. And I really wanted him to get more game time. He was electric, pace was there. He was looking good on the wings when I truly thought he was more of a midfielder, box to box. But he could play in the wings as well. He looked threatening. We could have developed this player into something brilliant this season. We missed the boat. We absolutely missed the boat. And now we're thinking about loaning him out. Why isn't Frank using him now? Why isn't he giving him an opportunity? it's strange, man. It's strange some of the things Frank's doing. This guy, Buddy Shield, who else? David Dutcher Fofana. I don't know why Frank's not using these people. He's bringing back Chalobah, no problems. But Buddy Shield, what has Buddy Shield done wrong? It's all strange. It's all strange. Alex Crook of Talk Sports. Since Frank Lampard returned to Chelsea, Cundy Chukwuemeka has not played a single minute in the first team. The lack of game time means he will be in high demand from rival clubs this summer. It underlines a fundamental flaw in Todd Boehly's decision to reappoint Lampard, as it appears he is more concerned with restoring his own reputation by selecting players that will not be there next season rather than build towards a better future. So true. So true. So true. Yeah. When you see players like Ziyech coming off the bench, what's the point? Those minutes should be going to Chukwuemeka. When you see players like whoever else starting ahead, Aubameyang, for instance, Auba's not going to be in Chelsea next season, man. This season's dead now. Should have used Auba earlier on. Should be using David Dutcher Fofana. It's just, we've ruined ourselves. As Simon Jordan of TalkSport has said, like, it makes zero sense. It made zero sense to bring Frank Lampard in. And when you're now this close to having Poch, and I don't know how close we are anymore, to be honest, but when you know who you want, you should just get them. We should be having Pochettino managing this side immediately, just to understand the whole team. I'm pretty sure under Pochettino, we don't lose all games. I'm not saying we go out there win, but we don't lose. Maybe we pick up some draws at least. But right now, we're in a free fall. Ruben Loftus-Cheek will be forced to take a pay cut to facilitate a potential move from Chelsea to AC Milan this summer, but he remains reluctant to leave his boyhood club, and despite having only 1 year left on his contract. This is from Nizar. I don't know how much of it is true, but we are looking to get rid of him. Maybe he's just looking at the situation, Nizar, and putting a story together. It kind of makes sense because Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a particular player we want to get rid of. At the same time, he's on a high wage, 150k per week. He's not going to take a pay cut. He knows he needs to live after football, and he wants to get that 150k bags on a weekly basis. He might just see the contract out. AC Milan's interested. There's no way AC Milan is going to be able to pay 150k for this guy, and it'll be difficult. It'll be difficult to move on some of these players because they're on high wages. This is one of the other things. We cannot provide high wages anymore. This is one thing that I like about the new ownership that they've done. They've not really gone out there and just thrown the money at every single player. There are certain players that are getting paid well, like Sterling and Koulibaly, and that. But the new players like Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk, and so on and so forth, they've not been on high wages. So that's something that I do appreciate. But yeah, some of these existing players, they might be around, and it'll be very difficult for us to move on because they might just say, do you know what, I'm staying. I'm on good wages. I'll just see my contract out. This is where Mason Mount, because he's not on good wages at the moment, he's thinking about other possibilities. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek, no reason for him to leave. No reason. Chelsea have drawn up a list of potential midfielders targets, which includes Manuel Ugarte, Declan Rice, Manu Kone, and Rami Lavia. Some really, really good names here. Look, I can't get excited about who we're going to get in the summer because there's so many issues at the moment that we need to rectify before we can even start thinking about bringing players in. We have to get rid of so many. But these names are fantastic. I'll take any of these guys, to be honest, to be part of our midfielders. I wouldn't mind taking two. Ugarte is fantastic. Rami Lavia is good. Look, I have not watched too much of Manu Kone. Declan Rice, obviously, is my first selection. As I said, it's beside Enzo Fernandez. But right now is beyond bringing just players in. We've got other fundamental issues in the club that needs to be rectified before we can even think about bringing in players. It's not just about bringing in players and things just change. No. Is beyond that. It's beyond that. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Smash the like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Hopefully we'll have a live tomorrow. I know earlier today we didn't have a live, but there wasn't much to talk about, so we didn't do it. But hopefully we'll have a live tomorrow and we'll talk about the latest in Chelsea. And obviously we've got Bournemouth coming up in the weekend. So load up for another L. Load up for another L. Until next time. So yeah.